Today, we are diving deep into a really fascinating and, I gotta say, incredibly dense text. It's part parable, part philosophical sermon, all delivered from the heart of a storm. We're gonna break down the dark, kind of inverted journey of its main character, the tarantula preacher.
So right off the bat, this text doesn't ease you in. Nope, it just throws you headfirst into this dark, poetic world. You can immediately feel the tone, can't you? It's heavy, it's momentous, and it is just drenched in atmosphere. This isn't just rain we're talking about, it's a rhythmic weeping. And it's marking not a climb up, but a deliberate descent down.
You have to understand, right from the start, that we are tracking a symbolic journey here. This is not about some guy just walking down a hill. No, this is a conscious, philosophical choice to reject one world and embrace another. It's a quest, for sure, but instead of climbing towards the light, our protagonist is purposefully journeying downward, right into the dark.
Okay, so the first huge event in this whole descent is a baptism. But as you're about to see, every single piece of traditional religious imagery here gets flipped completely on its head. It's twisted to mean something else entirely, something way more unsettling.
Think about it. A baptism is usually about purification, right? Being cleansed. But here, the holy water is a torrential storm. The universe itself gives an involuntary amen, not to a blessing, but to something decidedly unholy. The journey is away from the cathedral and into the mud. And our guy is identifying with a demonic gargoyle. It's a total inversion of a sacred act.
This comparison really makes that conscious choice crystal clear. The preacher is literally walking away from a world of established symbols. You know, the high cathedral, the smell of incense, the old light. And he's walking into a reality that's defined by the exact opposite. The mud, the chaos of the storm, the sovereign dark. This is a trade, a deliberate exchange of one entire value system for another.
And here it is. The preacher just comes right out and names it. It's both sacred and cruel. Sacred because for him, this is a deeply meaningful, transformative moment. But it's also cruel because it's an act of violence against the person he used to be and the world he's leaving behind. This contradiction, this paradox, that is at the very heart of his entire philosophy.
So, now that he's been baptized, what new belief system does our preacher embrace? Well, this brings us to the core doctrine he's preaching from his new pulpit, which he calls the rising tide of the abyss. It's a philosophy literally born from the storm itself.
The key term you have to know here is Untergang. It's a German word that can mean downfall or decline or sinking. But the preacher totally redefines it. For him, this is not about getting weaker or being defeated, no way. It's a purposeful, deliberate dive into something primal, fertile, ancient, what he calls the atavistic marrow of the earth. It's a descent to find a more fundamental and much more raw kind of strength.
And if you look at it from his perspective, the storm itself just transforms. It's not some natural disaster you have to survive. It becomes an active instrument for change. The preacher actually sees himself as the conductor of this atmospheric dissonance, using the storm's power to wash away what he calls tepid virtues, weak, lukewarm morals, all to clear space for his own creation, his web.
This metaphor is absolutely central to his philosophy. The tarantula, his chosen form, doesn't run from chaos. It's learned how to use it. It finds the very center of the storm and starts its creative act of weaving. This is all about finding power not in spite of destruction, but because of it.
So this philosophy, it builds and builds into a full-blown methodology. This isn't just some passive belief he's thinking about. It's an active practice, a science where the number one tool is destruction.
The preacher makes this direct and pretty shocking claim. He borrows the term gay science from the philosopher Nietzsche, but he twists it. For him, the ultimate joy and wisdom comes from understanding that to create something truly new, you first have to destroy what's already there. For him, destruction isn't just some unfortunate byproduct of change, it is the creative act.
And he has a very clear three-step process for all of this. First, you inject the venom, introduce the new philosophy to the world. Second, you use the chaos, the storm, to just sweep away all the old structures and symbols of power. And finally, what's left when everything else is gone? Well, according to the preacher, it's a fundamental, primal, and honest hunger, which he believes is the only real truth. So when you get right down to it, this preacher is not offering salvation in any traditional sense. He is not leading people out of the storm to safety.
His sermon is an invitation to jump right into the storm with him, to embrace the cold and biting currents and find a new, harder kind of strength there.
But who is this figure really? And who is this sermon even for? The next part of the text paints a picture of the preacher as a kind of herald, a messenger with a very specific audience in mind, our unsuspecting and narrow civilization.
I mean, his very appearance is this mashup of contradictions. A multi-limbed, spider-like form wrapped in the rags of a saint. His companion is a hound from Gehenna, a biblical place of torment. This guy isn't looking for just anyone. He's specifically searching for people who are already prepared to accept his terrifying truth.
This line right here is a direct rejection of any kind of protection or traditional belief. The umbrella of faith is a shelter he just scorns. He would rather be completely exposed to what he sees as reality, a world that is raw, savage, magnificent, and predatory. He doesn't just put up with this reality, he celebrates it.
And this really forces you to ask, what exactly is a preacher who offers no shelter, who actively mocks the very idea of sanctuary? It just fundamentally challenges our whole understanding of what a spiritual guide is even supposed to do. His guidance leads away from comfort and straight into the heart of the abyss. And this brings us to the conclusion of the whole parable. The preacher's arrival isn't some possibility or a future threat. It's presented as a done deal, a finished fact, and his role in this new chaotic world is chillingly clear.
The text is so emphatic here. The change, the undoing, has already happened. That sound of the rain isn't a warning of a coming storm. It's the confirmation that the storm is already here and the old world is already being washed away. The preacher's work is well underway.
And here we go, the final paradox. In a chaotic, spinning whirlpool, he offers stability, an anchor. But it's an anchor set firmly in the center of the chaos itself. The only certainty he provides is the certainty of the abyss. He has become the new, permanent center for a world that has completely lost its own.
And there it is, the final, definitive statement. The thing people were afraid was coming, it's not on its way. It's here. It has arrived, and it has a physical form, the rain-slicked skin of this dark philosopher, this herald of the void. The parable ends not with the question of if, but with the statement of now.
And so we're left with this final, haunting question. The parable forces us to really consider a deeply uncomfortable idea. When everything is unstable, when the world has lost its footing, maybe the only thing that can provide a stable anchor is something that embraces the chaos completely. What does that kind of stability even look like? And what is its price?